Auburn versus Ball State in week 2 of the 2025 college football season. This game takes place on Saturday, 6:30 p.m. Central Time. And Jay, our friends at FanDuel, where you can get all this fun action. Same game parlays, team props, you got player props, you got futures, you got everything over there. The Tigers, 43.5-point favorites coming off the big win against Baylor.
Look, man, we can talk all we want to about anything that happened in the first weekend of college football. The two biggest question marks about Auburn going into this game, considering that, and FanDuel has it right at 43.5. And one of the telling numbers when you start crunching numbers, especially when you look at them on a daily and weekly basis like I do, the spread's 43.5 and the total's 53.5. So really you're just wondering if Ball State can score. They didn't last week against a Purdue team that entered this year's season opener on an 11-game losing streak. And Ball State, according to FanDuel, has the second longest odds ahead of only Kent State to win the MAC. Ball State, not good.
Yeah, like you said, Purdue 31, Ball State nothing. Ball State had 203 total yards in that game. Only had 87 yards passing, 116 rushing, and really not a lot to note beyond that, just in terms of just completely, getting sort of dominated in that game. And for them, new head coach, lots of transfers on the roster. If you remember the name Caden Samaza, who felt like he had been there forever, but actually had not been there forever, he transferred to Tulane. So new quarterback. They haven't had a winning season since 2020. And yeah, that's kind of the story here if you're looking at it matchup wise. But again, I don't even know what we get into just from, diving deep into the matchup here for a team that's a 43.5-point favorite. But I guess, Jay, one of the questions, and if you're an Auburn fan, let's say, what are you looking for, like in a game like this? You come off of, again, a great performance on the road against Baylor. There's still some things that they have to clean up, as Hugh Freeze has talked about since then. But, I mean, what is the sort of biggest, most intriguing thing you have on your mind for this game?
How do they handle for the first time in what has been historically, considering the number of losing seasons, as bad a stretch as Auburn football's ever had? How do they handle success? And now everybody, instead of everybody being loaded with consternation, they're loaded with hope and optimism. Can they continue to grind with everybody patting them on the back and make this a stress-free Saturday? And to be honest, I've had this theory, Blake, that if you're a coach in a tenuous scenario, especially with the explosion of FanDuel in the legalized betting world, when you have this chance, it behooves you to cover these numbers because your alumni are going to bet on you. And if you do cover, they walk out happy. Happy alumni makes for happy programs, makes for fatter donation. It's like if you're a pastor and you're pleasing your churchgoers, there's more coin in the offering plate. So it would behoove Auburn to do a couple things. One, rest Damari Alston. You don't need him this week. You don't need him next week. He dinged up the shoulder. He looked great, ran hard. You get 84 yards on 16 carries against Baylor, and your long was 11. It tells me you're grinding the tough yards that allow Jackson Arnold to get on the perimeter. So he needs to be in street clothes. And then after you get up 21-0, after you get up 28-3 or whatever it is, if Ball State can find 3, you get a look at the guys behind Jackson Arnold. And then the rest of it is make certain Saturday is stress-free for everybody in a season opener that now has vibes that have completely redirected not only the entire state of Alabama for what happened in Tallahassee, but especially for the program for what happened in Waco in week 1.
Yeah, some of the things from Hugh Freeze echoes kind of what you've said, and you mentioned sort of, seeing how they handled the Damari Alston thing with the minor injury there. And I know one of the things he talked about, if you're talking about sort of the good and the bad, certainly, pleased with what Jackson Arnold did and just kind of seeing how they approached certain things. But as coaches do, and you know this, Jay, like, hey, we didn't play with the same fundamentals on defense. Those are things that he sort of mentioned. This is coming from my guy, Nathan King, over at Auburn Undercover 24/7 Sports. But, also sort of talked about some of the things about how they played 28 guys on defense in that game. And that's where, in a game like this, you're going to see a lot of guys potentially out there. You want to see kind of what you have behind them. But I know tackling, like those kind of things, those are probably from the coach speak standpoint. Those are the things you're looking for in a game like this, where it's like, okay, it's not just taking what we did at Baylor, but like if we're about to, as you said, turn this thing from, hey, we went and got a high profile win on the road to start the season, to we're going to be a team at the end of the season that has 10 or more wins. It's building those sort of consistent type things, and that's where the tackling, the fundamental elements, those things that coaches always talk about, they are keyed in on that this week.
Without question. And I think, honestly, among the guys who woke up after week 1 wins in the SEC, giddy about the opportunity to celebrate a good win. And look, everybody's happy with a week 1 win because it's just checking the list and taking the next step. But coaches look at it differently. You and I have been in enough locker rooms. We've been in enough press conferences. I've been around just standing there without a pad in my hand, talking to enough football coaches at every level, that after week 1, if you can celebrate a good win and still have 2 or 3 items you can harp on that your team's got to remain focused on. I'm not as upset as an Auburn graduate about the number of passing yards Baylor got, because I'm comfortable with Auburn's secondary. That was game script, and they had to go vertical to stay in the football game. I am worried about some 4th down miscommunications, especially at the end of the first half with the blown coverage. And there is assuredly going to be, I don't know how physical they're going to be going ones-on-ones, but there's going to be, and I can see DJ Durkin spending a lot of time running tackle drills where they don't take each other to the ground, but they're going to work on some form tackling for sure.
Yeah. So, again, that's kind of the story here, I think, of this particular game, and we'll get into kind of our picks and looking at that number here in just a second. And by the way, Phil Steele has a very fascinating stat when it comes to not just Auburn and Ball State series history, but also Ball State's history against the SEC. But we'll get into that in just a second. Let's quickly, as always, tell you about our friends who support the channel, GameTimeSidekicks.com, officially licensed stainless steel drinkware, all of the SEC schools. You can see that right there. The nice Auburn cup that Jay has on the screen. All the SEC schools, as I said, plus over 350 more universities as well. Stainless steel sippy cups, tumblers, 40-ounce bottles, shaker cups. They got it all, folks. If you want a 20% discount, 20% SE16, you can find that promo code as well in the description below, GameTimeSidekicks.com. Also, ROKFORM.com, ROKFORM.com, the world's strongest magnetic phone case, extreme protection, super strong magnets, rock lock secure mounting. They got all kinds of great stuff there, from phone cases, case accessories. They got golf stuff. Also, SEC25 for 25% off. 25% off SEC25 promo code in the description below. And our new sponsors over at Hovey Dried Goods, your new favorite hats. And look at this. Jay Greeson's got a hat. Guess who else has got a hat? They sent me a nice little hat, too. Look at this one, Auburn fans. They sent me a nice little Auburn hat for, again, all kinds of great. I mean, you can go check out their selection. It's tremendous. Hovey hats, high-quality headwear, great fit, as you can see on Jay Greeson. Unique designs. We'll have a promo code coming for you as well over there. All right, Jay. How's your hat made your confidence in terms of your pick here?
Well, my confidence was even before I got this wonderful hat. And if you're worried about the hats and you're ordering them, look, guys, I've got the head the size, a body construction like a water tower. All right, I have an enormous melon. I shared it earlier on one of our, I think it may have been on the live one Monday, that when I was a kid they called me Kool-Aid because I looked like the big pitcher that would come running through the wall because my head was so big. But this hat, and so conversely, I normally wear visors because it's just, but this hat actually fits, which is a rarity. But I had confidence in this one long before the hat. I just didn't know if Auburn was going to come in this one believing in themselves or having to answer questions about Hugh Freeze. I believe it's the former. I think Auburn covers this line, but I'm going to give you my best bet that I'm already on FanDuel. Auburn is minus 10.5 in the first quarter. I think this is a game that Auburn figures out early, and while it's still relatively close, gets the confidence of their wide receiver room back in motion. Auburn only threw for 108 yards against Baylor because they didn't need to throw for anything more than that. I actually praised Hugh Freeze in columns and on our platform here for not getting too cute in his play calling by starting to go play action. He found what worked against Baylor, and it assuredly will work against Ball State. But I think the first quarter is going to be dominated with some Cam Coleman time and getting that very talented wide receiver room smiling again. Cam Coleman had one catch. So if you're in a place that FanDuel allows player props, I'd look at they're not allowed in Tennessee on college games. So I would look at Cam Coleman. You'll get plus money for a Cam Coleman touchdown. And I love Auburn minus 10.5 in the first quarter.
Yeah, and like we sort of mentioned with Ball State, if you're looking at this just from a numbers standpoint and matchup-wise, I mean, they have so many new faces on that side of the ball and not a ton of experience. And I think this is one where, rebuilding the defense may take more than a season. So I think that, again, Auburn will probably be able to put up the amount of points they need here to probably cash in on what Jay's talking about and also put up a pretty big number in this game. And here's the stat I'm going to give you. I teased a minute ago from Phil Steele, his preseason magazine. 0-3 Ball State is all-time against Auburn, a combined score of 147-33. They are 0-11 all-time against SEC teams, and then, if you want this number, 1-4-1 against the spread in their last 6 against SEC opponents. So that may tell you a little bit of something, Jay.
I think Ball State. Oh, it tells the gamblers everything you need to know. I mean, you study trends and you rely on history. I mean, I know it's new names and new places and new faces, but I think Ball State, honestly, should make a big deal about changing their mascot in honor of their most famous alumni. And I think they should be the Ball State Letterman.
Maybe petition for that.
Yeah. I mean, you don't think he'd write a $10 million check to help NIL?
That I think he's got enough to be able to do it if he wanted to. We'll see how this game goes. We'll see how much potentially he may need to. But yeah, I'm gonna also pick Auburn in this one. And again, I think Ball State. I know if you're a Ball State fan watching this, you're like, we kind of know where the program's at. You got a new coach, a lot of new players. You're trying to rebuild this thing. We'll see if they can do it here over the next couple of seasons. But yeah, Auburn, a team with as much confidence as anybody, perhaps coming out of Week 1. And of course, we will have it all covered here at Southeastern 16 this weekend. We'll be doing our live reaction to all of these games. So this is kind of on the later side, so you'll be able to get our thoughts on this one in the primetime reaction show we do late night on Saturday. And as always, turn on your notifications. We do go live. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button as well. Auburn fans, you're watching this. Give us your score predictions in the comments. How do you see this thing playing out? And again, we appreciate you watching as always. We'll talk to you soon here at Southeastern 16.